It began with a scream that froze every person in the crowded corporate plaza. A terrified woman stumbled backward as a hooded stranger lunged toward her with frightening determination, but before anyone else could react, a rugged single father carrying a box of cleaning supplies threw himself between them. In one breathtaking moment, he wrestled the attacker to the ground with nothing but courage and instinct. The crowd cheered in relief until the man's hood slipped back. The single dad looked into the stranger's face, and every drop of color vanished from his own. He knew that face. 3 years earlier, the entire country had mourned that man after authorities declared him dead in a tragic bridge collapse. Yet here he was, alive, terrified, and staring back with the same look of disbelief. Before we continue this unforgettable journey, if you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel. Every act of support helps our community continue sharing stories that remind our family that compassion is stronger than hatred. The single father was named Garrick Holden, a quiet 38-year-old maintenance technician who had spent the last 7 years raising his 10-year-old daughter, Eloan, after losing his wife to a sudden illness. Every sunrise began the same way. Garrick packed lunches, braided his daughter's long blonde hair as best he could despite never mastering the skill, walked her to school, and then headed to the towering headquarters of Hartwell Dynamics, one of the country's fastest-growing technology companies. He never complained about the exhausting routine because every sacrifice carried the face of his smiling daughter. She believed her father could solve every problem in the world, and Garrick tried every day to become the man she already believed he was. The woman Garrick had just saved was Corinne Ashcroft, the brilliant chief executive officer of Hartwell Dynamics. She had earned admiration for transforming a struggling company into an international success, yet her accomplishments had come with an invisible cost. For months, someone had stalked her relentlessly. Anonymous letters appeared at her office. Strange photographs arrived showing her daily routine. Security systems were upgraded repeatedly, but the stalker always stayed one step ahead. The board pressured Corinne to travel with bodyguards, though she disliked living behind walls of protection. She believed fear should never dictate a person's life. As security officers restrained the attacker, Garrick kept staring into his face. Recognition crashed over him like a tidal wave. 3 years earlier, Garrick had worked construction beside a cheerful structural engineer named Cedric Rowan. Cedric had become more than a coworker. He had encouraged Garrick during the darkest days after his wife's diagnosis, often bringing coffee and reminding him never to lose hope. Then came the catastrophic bridge collapse during an inspection. Rescue teams searched for weeks before declaring Cedric among the dead. Memorial services were held. His grieving wife relocated overseas. Everyone accepted the tragedy. Everyone except Garrick, who always carried a strange feeling that something about the investigation had never made sense. Cedric suddenly stopped struggling against security. His exhausted eyes remained fixed on Garrick, almost pleading without words. Corinne noticed the strange exchange and quietly instructed the officers not to harm him. She wanted answers more than punishment. Police soon arrived in broad daylight, expecting a straightforward attempted assault case. Instead, fingerprints revealed something impossible. The attacker truly was Cedric Rowan. Every officer exchanged stunned glances as old records confirmed his legal death 3 years earlier. News crews gathered outside the building almost immediately, sensing one of the biggest stories of the decade. Corinne insisted on remaining inside the headquarters rather than hiding from the media. She believed truth deserved daylight. Garrick was invited upstairs because his testimony had suddenly become critical. He felt uncomfortable entering executive conference rooms filled with polished wood and expensive artwork. Usually he quietly emptied trash bins there before sunrise. Now every executive watched him with respect rather than indifference. Cedric finally spoke after hours of silence. His voice carried the weight of years buried beneath grief and fear. He explained that the bridge collapse had not been an accident. During the inspection he had discovered evidence of massive safety fraud involving a construction consortium. Before he could report it, powerful individuals kidnapped him. They staged his death using the disaster as cover, erased his identity, and forced him into years of isolation, threatening to kill innocent people if he ever resurfaced. Everyone listened in stunned silence. Corinne struggled to understand why Cedric had targeted her instead of those responsible. Cedric lowered his eyes in shame. He admitted he never intended to hurt her. He had desperately tried to approach her because Hartwell Dynamics had recently purchased confidential engineering archives connected to the original bridge project. He believed someone inside the company unknowingly possessed evidence that could finally expose the conspiracy. Security had rejected him repeatedly because officially he was a dead man. His desperate attempt to reach Corinne looked like an attack. The room fell silent again. Many executives immediately doubted Cedric's unbelievable story, but Garrick noticed something no one else did. Cedric's hands trembled exactly as they had years earlier whenever he became overwhelmed. That tiny detail convinced Garrick he was looking at the same honest man who once shared sandwiches during lunch breaks. Trauma had changed his appearance, but not the kindness hidden beneath the fear. Corinne faced an impossible decision. Trusting Cedric could destroy her company's reputation if he lied. Ignoring him might bury the truth forever. She chose the harder path. She ordered a complete internal investigation despite knowing shareholders might panic. The following days unfolded entirely beneath bright skies filled with relentless cameras and reporters. Garrick continued working because bills never paused for extraordinary events. Yet every afternoon he received updates from investigators. His daughter noticed the unusual attention surrounding her father and quietly told him she was proud that bravery mattered more than job titles. Those simple words reminded Garrick that children often recognized greatness before adults did. As investigators searched old records, astonishing discoveries emerged. Several executives from the Bridge Consortium had quietly disappeared after the collapse. Insurance payments worth hundreds of millions had changed hands through shell companies. Even more shocking, encrypted files hidden inside Hartwell Dynamics' recently acquired archive contained photographs, inspection reports, and financial transfers proving deliberate negligence before the disaster. Corinne realized her company had accidentally inherited evidence capable of exposing one of the country's largest corporate crimes. Pressure mounted from every direction. Investors demanded silence. Lawyers warned about lawsuits. Anonymous messages urged Corinne to destroy the files before her company collapsed under legal battles. Some board members insisted preserving profits mattered more than reopening an old tragedy. For the first time in her celebrated career, Corinne felt truly alone. Unexpectedly, the person who restored her courage was Garrick. During a quiet afternoon while repairing a broken elevator panel, he reminded her that his daughter judged people not by wealth but by whether they chose honesty when honesty became expensive. Those words lingered inside Corinne long after Garrick returned to work. She realized history rarely remembered comfortable decisions. It remembered courageous ones. The investigation eventually uncovered the mastermind behind the conspiracy, a respected businessman who had spent years presenting himself as a generous philanthropist while secretly orchestrating fraud that cost dozens of innocent lives. Cedric had survived because eliminating him immediately risked exposing the scheme. Instead, they imprisoned him in isolation until they believed enough time had passed for everyone to accept his death. The arrest shocked the nation. Families who had mourned loved ones during the bridge collapse finally learned the full truth. Some cried from renewed heartbreak. Others found peace knowing the disaster had not simply been terrible luck. Justice, though delayed, had finally arrived beneath the light of day rather than remaining hidden in darkness. Cedric faced another challenge even greater than exposing the conspiracy. He had to rebuild a life erased from existence. His legal identity required restoration. His old home belonged to strangers. Friends had moved away. Even simple tasks like opening a bank account became overwhelming because officially he had not existed for 3 years. Garrick refused to let him face that journey alone. Every weekend, Garrick and Eloan invited Cedric to spend afternoons with them at local parks, community events, and neighborhood gatherings. At first Cedric remained distant, overwhelmed by ordinary happiness he believed he had lost forever. Slowly, laughter returned. Eloan never treated him as a headline. She treated him as someone deserving another chance to smile. Corinne watched this transformation with growing admiration. She realized the greatest strength inside her company had never been advanced technology or soaring profits. It was ordinary people whose compassion quietly changed lives without expecting applause. Months later, Hartwell Dynamics established a national foundation supporting families affected by corporate negligence and workplace disasters. Garrick declined every public award offered to him, insisting countless parents sacrificed quietly every day without recognition. Nevertheless, Corinne promoted him into a safety leadership role, believing someone who valued human life above everything else belonged where decisions truly mattered. Cedric eventually stood before the rebuilt memorial honoring those lost in the bridge collapse. This time he was not remembered as a ghost but welcomed as a survivor. He placed flowers for the co-workers who never returned and silently promised to spend the rest of his life honoring them through truth rather than bitterness. Garrick stood nearby with Aloan holding his hand. He understood that courage was rarely about defeating enemies. More often, it meant refusing to surrender kindness after suffering unimaginable pain. Corinne finally found freedom from fear as well. The stalker she had dreaded turned out to be a desperate victim searching for justice, reminding her that appearances often concealed stories far more complicated than assumptions allowed. She learned to listen before judging, to investigate before condemning, and to lead with humanity before authority. Before this story comes to its conclusion, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing whether you believe forgiveness is stronger than revenge, or whether you think hope can survive even after years of heartbreak. Your thoughts encourage our family and inspire our community to keep believing in the good that still exists. As the warm afternoon sun stretched across the city, Garrick walked home beside his daughter, no longer feeling like an invisible maintenance worker. He had never sought recognition, wealth, or fame. He simply chose to protect another human being when everyone else froze. That single act uncovered buried truth, reunited a forgotten soul with the world, inspired a powerful leader to choose integrity over profit, and reminded countless grieving families that justice may arrive late, but it is never meaningless. Aloan slipped her small hand into her father's and smiled with complete confidence because, in her eyes, heroes were never the loudest people in the room. They were the ones who quietly chose compassion when fear demanded silence. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Thank you for being part of our family and our community, where every story reminds us that even after unimaginable loss, kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances still have the power to change lives forever.